Hi everyone, I'm Gemma Joyce and I'm Senior Content Manager at Brandwatch. I've been here for over 5 years now and my job has always centred around creating reports using data that Brandwatch has access to. Today I'm going to be talking about one of those reports that we released just last week. It focuses on what customer loyalty looks like in 2021, what drives it and what diminishes it. First of all, I'll do an introduction. So Brandwatch, which is based in the UK, is the world's pioneering digital consumer intelligence suite. Our AI-powered social listening and content marketing analytics help over 2,000 of the world's most admired brands and agencies make insightful, data-driven decisions. While Brandwatch Consumer Research, our flagship platform, can process all kinds of data side by side, we're best known for our capabilities in making sense of the voices of billions of people through analysing sources like public social media posts, reviews, blog posts, and news articles. So today I'm going to be talking about the new report that Brandwatch worked on in partnership with survey company GWI. It's all about customer loyalty and brings together the different data sources both companies specialise in to enhance the insights. We looked at social data across 2020 around the top 3 retailers in the US and the top 2 in the UK by revenue, ensuring that mentions we included in our study included terms like I or my to ensure that we were looking at personal experiences with the brands in question. We also accessed GWI's survey data from throughout the pandemic to compare and contrast with the social data that we'd already collected. The goal was to look at retention, which we all know is an important challenge for every business. And loyalty is hard to win, especially when social media and the internet have meant negative experiences can spread so quickly and easily. So today I'm going to take you through some of the key findings of the report, answering questions around advocacy, detraction, and key issues for retailers in 2021. I'll also share a little around the methodology and how to blend data sources together to come up with impactful insights. So we'll jump straight in with advocacy. Why do consumers advocate for top retail brands online? You might think that a happy customer makes for an advocate, but there's actually a lot of nuance in advocacy conversations on the internet. Some brand attributes or behaviours are more likely to prompt a positive online promotion than others. When we looked at consumers sharing personal experiences around top retail brands in the US and UK across 2020, we found 3 key reasons for advocacy: price or value for money, quality of products, and delivery. Let's look at what's behind those 3 key reasons. First up, it's price. So across 2020, 40% of the top retail advocacy posts we found centered around value for money. In those conversations, consumers frequently discuss where to get the most affordable household essential items, especially at the beginning of the COVID-19 lockdowns in the US and the UK. This is something that's particularly important in 2021, as the financial toll of the pandemic continues to sting and confidence is still pretty shaky. GWI data has found throughout the pandemic that consumers have been delaying purchases, big and small, and continue to look for discounts and promotions that could save them money. Next, we have quality of products. In these conversations, we found that store brand products were an important theme, showing that retailers' owned brand products are a key opportunity to boost advocacy, that is, if they're good enough. We also found consumers discussing trust a lot, which is something that's, of course, really important for loyalty. And there's an easy link to make between product quality and purchase intent. In GWI's October 2020 research on brand loyalty, when consumers were asked about factors that are important to them when purchasing a new everyday item or product like a cleaning product or a drink, price came in on top with 71% of consumers choosing it, while quality came in second at 67%. The first 2 reasons for customer advocacy feel pretty obvious, perhaps even timeless, but the third feels very important and relevant to the state of our world at the moment. I think many of us have relied on delivery a little more during lockdowns. The top theme in positive delivery posts was ordering from a particular brand because they offer consistent and reliable delivery service. Meanwhile, when GWI asked consumers about factors that will be more important to them in the future than they used to be, specifically around online shopping, reliable delivery and free delivery both came out on top, with 51% of consumers selecting these options. But as we'll soon see, not all conversation about delivery is positive. So let's move into more negative waters. Why do consumers detract from top retail brands online? And this is a key issue because of how damaging online complaints about brands can be, especially if they turned into full-blown brand crises. It's also a big issue because negativity outweighs advocacy. Brand detraction post volume online in the UK and US was 20% higher than brand loyalty discussion. So our study showed that people are more likely to talk about brands negatively in the retail space than positively. What's behind the negativity around top retailers? Well, as I hinted before, delivery is a massive driver. This is followed by treatment of employees and quality of products. So let's explore delivery again. Almost half of consumer detraction discussion, 47%, came from negative posts about delivery delays or an inadequate number of delivery time slots offered by retailers. That said, there are regional differences in this conversation. Delayed delivery mentions account for more than 15% of negative delivery discussion and was more of a detractor for US consumers. Meanwhile, UK consumers were more likely to negatively post about the lack of delivery appointments or time slots available on brand websites. And difficulty meeting the minimum charge to secure a delivery slot was also an issue. Delivery is also a key reason why someone might advocate for a retail brand as well as detract from them. So it presents a win-win opportunity. Ironing out these issues with delivery should be a key priority for retail brands in 2021. It will hopefully lead to happier, more loyal consumers, more online advocacy, and less online detraction. So let's move on to detraction reason 2, which is treatment of employees. Poor treatment of employees was the second biggest topic in consumer retail brand detraction discussion, making up around 20% of detraction posts. Lack of employee benefits, low pay, and harsh working conditions were top themes in these conversations. The importance of this was also evident in GWI data, when consumers were asked about the factors that might concern them when deciding whether or not to buy from a brand. Substandard labour conditions came in second place, with 38% of respondents selecting this option. Finally, for detraction, let's look at the quality of products. Grocery items were the top product mentioned in negative quality discussion, with many consumers posting that they will not shop at a specific brand due to poor quality food items. But it's also important to note that all groups are not the same. So for example, GWI survey data reveals a key correlation between consumer age and the reverence they have for product quality. GWI asked consumers what would most motivate them to promote their favourite brands online in Q4 2020. While quality was a top reason for all age groups, it was particularly resonant for those in the 55 to 64 age bracket. 53% of these respondents selected quality products, compared to just 46% in the 16 to 24 age group. So while the top reasons for advocacy and detraction have been covered already, we picked up on 2 other trends in our survey and social data that warranted additional study. The first of these key areas is how people perceive big versus small or independent or local retailers. Support around local retailers has been high throughout the pandemic. Brandwatch analysis showed that conversation in favour of supporting local and small businesses became more popular towards the end of the last quarter of 2020, especially around the gift-giving and shopping-heavy holidays. That said, GWI data shows that support for local shops and businesses and how they've dealt with the pandemic has been high since early on in the pandemic. Back in March 2020, consumers were asked about how different institutions and organisations had handled the coronavirus outbreak so far. local businesses came out on top, ahead of corporations, banks, and even the government. While it's not a huge driver of advocacy or detraction conversation for top retail brands, consumers who discuss supporting small businesses over big retail brands were very serious about their commitment. So who are the consumers that are leading the charge for smaller businesses? Well, GWI survey data gives us additional information on who this group of consumers might be. Q4 2020 data from GWI shows that in general, consumers would prefer to buy from local or independent retailers versus buying from big retailers. But preference for local or independent stores also grew in line with respondent age, with 58% of 55 to 64-year-olds preferring to buy local. We also found consumers discussing shopping at more local businesses because they felt the quality was better than similar products at large retailers. You might recall the data from earlier that shows how older audiences place a greater priority on quality, which could be another explainer for their support of local businesses. So interest and good feeling around smaller businesses is not to be sniffed at. While big retailers have great advantages in their delivery and cost-cutting abilities, older consumers are passionate about supporting local companies. Sadly for some, the choice has been made for them, as many small businesses were forced to close due to the pandemic. The second spotlight that we'd like to put on a topic is sustainability, specifically around plastic. So sustainability didn't make as big an impact in our research on advocacy and detraction conversation as other factors, but that's not to say it's not a key battleground on which retail brands can make great gains. There are regional differences in this conversation, just as we found before. More than 20% of plastic packaging detraction conversation comes from the UK, with grocery items stored in plastic being the top theme in the conversation here. Fruit and vegetables wrapped in plastic were also mentioned frequently in these detraction posts and often spoken about as completely unnecessary. Meanwhile, consumers in the US were more likely to talk about waste when it comes to shipping materials. This usually happened after they've received delivery from a top retailer. Frustration around packaging has been picked up by GWI too. Their January 2021 Zeitgeist study found that 52% of consumers wanted to see brands creating products with less packaging, and 51% said they wanted to see more products with recycled packaging. A fascinating lens to look at this data through even is age. The data shows that young consumers are less likely to see their own actions as impactful, while those in older age groups are more likely to have bought more products with recyclable packaging in the last year. To quote Chase Buckle, who is head of global trends at GWI and helped me work on this report, although younger age groups do participate in practical actions like recycling, they're relatively more inclined to believe individual action is futile without companies taking more responsibility. Gen Z and millennials are up to twice as likely as older generations to believe that individual impact doesn't make a difference when recycling and adopting reusable packaging. So I've thrown all of the data at you, so I'll wrap up now with some key takeaways. As you've heard, the top reasons for advocacy around top retail brands are price, product quality, and delivery. For detraction, it's delivery, treatment of employees, and product quality. If I were to make recommendations based on these findings, it'd be to deal with delivery issues most urgently to encourage more advocacy and less detraction, especially as there's so much delivery negativity. Next, I'd encourage brands to investigate further into the drivers behind treatment of employees and product quality. Understanding the reasons for detraction around these and addressing them can again take away some of that negativity and hopefully win some favour. Equally, we're looking at data in aggregate here, so finding out the top reasons for advocacy and detraction for your own brand might bring up different priorities that you can deal with. There are also some key learnings around the research side of things that I found as I went through this project. Firstly, there is so much data out there and plenty of insights to be discovered. I think there's a misconception that people go to social media to talk about what they had for breakfast or for lunch. And of course, there is plenty of that. But there's also a lot of brands out there, or even there's a lot of insights that brands can learn about consumer perceptions around pretty much every aspect of their company that can lead to changes that positively impact the bottom line. Secondly, different groups of people, as we saw, will have different answers to your key questions. It's always worth segmenting your data out to check on the different groups within that are saying different things, whether that's by demographic or location, or going even deeper into interest groups, for example. Finally, it's implied in the first two as well. It's always worth contextualizing your findings and seeking out new data sources to compare with them. Brandwatch is known for its social data analysis, but we are big champions of combining data sources to help build out a more complete picture of your consumers and what they want. In the loyalty report I shared with you today, we were lucky enough to work with GWI to combine our data sources, contrast them, and get a greater picture of what's going on. For example, how older and younger people approach recycling, or their attitudes towards product quality or big versus small retailers. In essence, bringing data together helps you get closer to the truth of the matter, and I really encourage digging into this data from the perspective of your own brand and what's important to you and your objectives. So if you're interested in the data, I would highly recommend visiting brandwatch.com/loyalty to read the report in its entirety, and you'll be able to find the sources for all of the stats that I've shared today. And I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Please get in touch with any questions and I'll be happy to get back to you. Thank you very much.